So, if 1,000 men were not to pay their tax bills this year, that would not be a violent and bloody measure, as it would be to pay them, and enable the state to commit violence and shed innocent blood. This is, in fact, the definition of a peaceable revolution, if any such is possible. If the tax gatherer or any other public officer asks me, as one has done, "But what shall I do?" my answer is, if you really wish to do anything, resign your office. When the subject has refused allegiance and the officer has resigned his office, then the revolution is accomplished. Is there not a sort of bloodshed when the conscience is wounded? Through this wound, a man's real manhood and immortality flow out, and he bleeds to everlasting death. God damn, lines that go hard as fuck. Like, too hard, actually. Like, chill, bro. Just explain it. When the subject has refused allegiance and the officer has resigned his office, then the revolution is accomplished. But even suppose blood should flow. If there is bloodshed, is there not a sort of bloodshed when the conscience is wounded? Through this wound, a man's real manhood and immortality flow out, and he bleeds to an everlasting death when his conscience is wounded. I see this blood flowing now. I have contemplated the imprisonment of the offender rather than the seizure of his goods, though both will serve the same purpose. Because they who assert the purest right, and consequently are the most dangerous to a corrupt state, commonly have not spent much time in accumulating property, Freudian slip. I've contemplated the imprisonment of the offender rather than the seizure of his goods, though both would serve the same purpose, because they who assert the purest right, and consequently are the most dangerous to a corrupt state, commonly have not spent much time in accumulating property. To such the state renders comparatively small service, and a slight tax is wont to appear exorbitant, particularly if they are obliged to earn it by special labor with their hands. If there were one who lived wholly without the use of money, the state would hesitate to demand it of him. But the rich man, not to make any invidious comparison, is always sold to the institution which makes him rich. Absolutely speaking, the more money, the less virtue. For money comes between a man and his objects, and obtains them for him. And it was certainly no great virtue to obtain it. It puts to rest many questions which he would otherwise be taxed to answer. While the only new question which it puts is the hard but superfluous one: how to spend it. Thus his moral ground is taken from under his feet. Are you listening? The opportunities of living are diminished in proportion as what are called the means are increased. The best thing a man can do for his culture when he is rich is to endeavor to carry out the schemes which he entertained when he was poor. Christ answered the Herodians according to their condition. The more money you have, the more reason you have to go along. The best thing a rich man can do culturally is to carry out the schemes he entertained when he was poor. Christ answered the Herodians according to their condition. "Show me the tribute money," said he, and one took a penny out of his pocket. If you use money which has the image of Caesar on it, and which he has made current and valuable, that is, if you are men of the state, and gladly enjoy the advantages of Caesar's government, then pay him back some of his own when he demands it. Render, therefore, to Caesar that which is Caesar's, and to God those things which are God's. Leaving them no wiser than before as to which was which, for they did not wish to know. And it's gone. When I converse with the freest of my neighbors, I perceive that whatever they may say about the magnitude and seriousness of the question, and their regard for the public tranquility, the long and the short of the matter is that they cannot spare the protection of the existing government, and they dread the consequences on their property and families of disobedience to it. For my own part, I should not like to think that I ever rely on the protection of the state. But if I deny the authority of the state when it presents its tax bill, it will soon take and waste all my property, and so harass me and my children without end. This is hard. This makes it impossible for a man to live honestly, and at the same time comfortably in outward respects. It will not be worth the while to accumulate property. That would be sure to go again. You must hire or squat somewhere, and raise but a small crop, and eat that soon. You must live within yourself, and depend upon yourself, always tucked up and ready for a start, and not have many affairs. Oh, that's depressing. Yeah, actually, civil disobedience is an oxymoron. A man may go, I don't know what these references mean. A man may grow rich in Turkey, even, if he will be in all respects a good subject of the Turkish government. Confucius said, "A state is governed by principles of reason. Poverty and misery are subjects of shame." If a state is not governed by principles of reason, riches and honors are the subjects of shame. No. Until I want the protection of Massachusetts to be extended to me in some distant southern port, where my liberty is endangered, or until I am bent solely on building up an estate at home by peaceful enterprise, I can afford to refuse allegiance to Massachusetts and her right to my property and life. It costs me less in every sense to incur the penalty of disobedience to the state. He did go to jail, by the way. I don't know. Also, he did go to jail. That's what's for not paying his taxes. I can afford to refuse allegiance to Massachusetts and her right to my property and life. It costs me less in every sense to incur the penalty of disobedience to the state than it would to obey. I should feel as if I were worth less in that case. Some years ago, the state met me in behalf of the church and commanded me to pay a certain sum towards the support of a clergyman whose preaching my father attended, but never I myself. Pay, it said, or be locked up in the jail. I declined to pay it. But unfortunately, another man saw fit to pay it. I did not see why the schoolmaster should be taxed to support the priest, and not the priest, the schoolmaster. For I was not the state's schoolmaster, but I supported myself by voluntary subscription. I did not see why the Lyceum should not present its tax bill and have the state to back its demand, as well as the church. What is the Lyceum? He was also a schoolmaster? Oh, yeah, why should I have to fucking pay a tax for the fucking clergyman, dude? Fuck you. Why doesn't the church have to pay a tax to my school? Samesies. Lyceum. A category of educational institution defined within the education system of many countries, mainly in Europe. An institution for popular education, public lectures, and discussions. Are we in a lyceum right now? I don't think so. Originating from the ancient Athenian gymnasium where Aristotle taught. It functions today as a center for lifelong learning, community dialogue, or a type of secondary school in Europe, aiming to foster intellectual growth and civic engagement. Literally does not exist in America. I don't know if we realize that. Public school is like, that's it. You get one public school in your life, and they are also dismantling that. Even more than it was already a pitiful excuse for an education, they are also just dismantling it more and more. We could be dismantling the tools of the oppressors, but we are dismantling the tools of our own liberation. Yay! And the people cheered. And then they died. And we had more orphans for the orphan grinding machine. Yay. I did not see why the Lyceum should not present its tax bill and have the state to back its demand, as well as the church. However, at the request of the selectmen, I condescended to make some such statement as this in writing. Know all men by these presents, that I, Henry Thoreau, do not wish to be regarded as a member of any incorporated society which I have not joined. This I gave to the town clerk, and he has it. The state, having thus learned that I did not wish to be regarded as a member of that church, has never made a like demand on me since. Dude, you can just write. I mean, you can't really do that. Like, maybe you could do this still, but he just wrote, he's like, I'm not a member of this church. And they're like, you know what? Noted. This is the foundation of America, man. The state having thus learned that I did not wish to be regarded as a member of that church has never made a like demand on me since, though it said that it must adhere to its original presumption at the time. If I had known how to name them, I should have signed off in detail from all the societies which I never signed on to, but I did not know where to find a complete list. He's got jokes, too. A different way of thinking back then? No, he was literally talking of, never mind, I don't even know. I'm gonna get another drink. But But, not everyone, I mean, the whole point was this was like revolutionary writing. This guy wrote this, and then other people who were also literate and educated read it and were like, oh my god, I was too afraid to say this myself. He's right. We need to stop listening to the tyrants. Tyrants. We're being run by tyrants, and I'm tired of pretending like it's right. And even if one man stands against slavery, that one man is a majority because he has the rights of God, who has created all men equal. Amen and America, bitch. And then he kicked in a church door. And he was like, it's very nice in here. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. Yeah, a state religion. I know. He's saying, I shouldn't have to pay a tax to a church I'm not a part of.